Welcome to the Project Endure podcast, the place where we talk about life, endurance, persistence, perspective, and so much more. I'm Joe Rinaldi, and I'll be your host. Let's jump in. Before we get started, let me ask you a question. Have you ever noticed that what you wear has the power to change how you feel? Project Endure apparel is designed to remind you that easy won't make you stronger, and that growth is an uncomfortable choice that we all have the privilege to make every day. Look good, feel good, and perform good. Head to the link in the show notes to shop Project Endure apparel and keep on doing hard things. Now, let's get to the episode. Welcome back to the Project Endure podcast. We have myself, Joe Rinaldi, and in Western Canada for episode 199, we have a very, very, very special guest, Chris Koch. Chris, how are you?
Morning. How you doing today, Joe?
It is so good to be here with you. You and I scheduled this a few times, and I joked with you before the recording that the best things in life are worth the wait. And I'll put the pressure on you, but I know that we're going to have an awesome conversation. And I would love to start by telling the audience, before I let you give an introduction, how I came across you. And so it was last year at the New York City Marathon. I was there cheering on a few clients. And someone kind of, in my recollection, whizzed by on a skateboard, but they weren't riding a skateboard like, I would ride a skateboard. They appeared to have no arms or legs and were kind of kicking with half of a leg on a skateboard doing the New York City Marathon. And I thought to myself, whoa, like what? And I kind of put it to the back of my mind. And then this past year, 2025, at the Philadelphia Half Marathon, saw that same guy ride past, decided I have to Google and see if I can find this person. I found that person, and that person is you. So here we are. And for people who don't know who you are, I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Chris Koch. I'm from Western Canada, a little small farming and ranching community. It's the John Deere hat. Called Nanton, about an hour south of Calgary. And I was born missing arms and legs. So yeah, as you can see, missing two arms here. The legs, unless I do a headstand, you'll just have to take my word for it. So I assume you'll throw a photo in here or something like that. But I was born missing arms and legs, and it hasn't stopped me from anything. I grew up helping out on my grandpa's farm, still do farm to this day. Motivational speaker, travel around the world, telling stories, and an adaptive athlete. So as you saw, I was in New York doing the marathon there. I guess it would have been 24, and then Philly. You live in Philly now, and I've done Philly this past year. This past November was the first year that I didn't do the full marathon. Kathleen Titus, who's the race director in Philly, had asked me to do some smaller distances and hopefully attract some more adaptive runners into the community and into the Philly Marathon. And then the neat part about it is my nephew, all three were supposed to do it, but my oldest nephew did the 8K, so I did the 8K with him right after I did the half marathon. So it was a busy day. But yeah, like I said, even though I was born missing arms and legs, hasn't stopped me from doing anything. And I guess to give you a visual, obviously my arms are about the elbow length, and then on the left side there's no leg at all. On the right side there's a partially developed leg and a partially developed foot, and that foot actually points backwards. So people are like, why is your shoe on backwards? I'm like, no, my foot's on backwards, shoe's pointing the right direction. So yeah, that's what I use to propel the longboard or the skateboard forward. And yeah, the board is my primary mode of transportation and mobility aid and whatever else you want to call it, instead of prosthetics or wheelchair, stuff like that.
I have so many questions, and we'll get deeper into your story, but let me just first ask, when you're going through a race, whether it's a half marathon, full marathon, and there are people lined up along the side cheering everyone on, I would imagine that you attract a lot of eyeballs. As you drew my eyeballs, what does it feel like to have people watching you as you're going through a race like that? Because people are watching you maybe more than just the average runner.
Yeah, I mean, I stick out in the crowd. So I get attention everywhere I go, whether it's at a grocery store or New York City Marathon. And I mean, New York New York Marathon, the crowds are absolutely incredible. Chicago, I just did this past year, and same thing. But New York was at another level. Chicago brought the noise, but New York, I'm afraid New York still got the the takes
Yeah.
the cake for that one, I guess. But anyways, um, so yeah, I it's pretty cool. I've had racers come up to me, runners come up to me afterwards, like the whole marathon. The loudest cheers I heard were when you were right beside me, and it's pretty cool. I mean, from something as simple as just it gets you jacked, especially when you're on the second half of a full, say between about mile 16 and 19. You're like, oh man, if I would have done a half, I'd be done by now. And so that crowd, it gets you jacked. And I've maintained, since I crossed the finish line, I finished New York, I think probably upwards of 10 minutes faster, if not more, because of the crowds. Um, yeah. And Philly's been amazing. Absolutely love Philly. I've been there 4 years in a row. And one of the runners, one of the legacy runners, Mark, I can't remember his last name right now, who's done every single Philly marathon. He said, Philly fans, sports fans are incredible. They're insane. They are so passionate about the Eagles and the Flyers and the Phillies and the 76ers. And the other sports that they have there too.
Yeah.
And when you are running Philly, you are part of the home team, and I love it, and that's why I keep coming back.
Oh, that's a great description. I'll ask you two quick questions about marathons, and then we'll jump into a deeper part of your life. But one question is, what is it? What fatigues for you, right? Like, so my background, I'm a physical therapist, a performance coach, run coach. I understand what it feels like myself to run a marathon or further or shorter. I know what gets tired for me. Is your hip just fried at the end of a marathon?
Yeah, yeah. My right leg, my right hip, definitely it's stiff and sore. But and my ankle on the right side, it gets pretty sore. And you know, I the shoe that I wear on that right foot is just a little moccasin that the Hutterites, which are kind of like the Amish, built build for me, and it's pretty rudimentary. It slides on, and that's one thing I've been trying to you know get as a shoe sponsor, which is ironic for a guy without legs. Um, but if I could get like Nike or Puma or Hoka or whoever to jump on board and custom make me a proper shoe that provides stability, little more secure and snug. I think it would improve my time. And honestly, I've told people my backwards facing foot on the right side is literally shaped like a Nike swoosh. So it's marketing 101 right there. But yeah, my right hip is the most stiff and sore
Mm.
because it's the workhorse. It's doing all the work. Yes, I get a reprieve on the downhill, but
Yeah.
to get up that hill, or to go down that hill, you got to get up it first. So
Yeah.
yeah, pushing up into is it Fairmont Park,
Yeah. Fairmount Park.
Fairmount Park, past Drexel there.
Mm.
That one's always a killer.
Yep.
Climbing up the Verrazano Bridge, the very beginning of the New York Marathon, that was a killer. That downhill part was
Oof.
beautiful, but yeah, the downhills never seem to last long enough.
Well, so, so I ran the New York City Marathon in 2022, and when you're coming over the Queensboro Bridge, and then you head on to First Ave, where all the crowds are, it's phenomenal, right? Like that's the
Yes,
best.
yes,
My question
yes,
for you is, right? You're heading downhill. You have to make, I believe in my mind, it's a left-hand turn. It's actually a
yeah,
series of turns. So
yeah,
you're picking up speed. you're going downhill, you have to turn the skateboard, and you have, again, no arms, one leg, one partial leg. How do you turn?
I mean, you just lean left or right. I mean, I've got the trucks loose enough that I could still turn pretty sharp, but not too sharp. So they're rigid enough that, when I'm on a downhill, it's not so on straight as well. It's not too loose. I mean, I've had some like Manayunk when you that turnaround of Manayunk
Yep.
in Philly, it's a hairpin.
Yep.
So I'll swing way wide and get in there, but there's times where I have to use the kicktail and actually spin it around, or I bent over and lifted the board and flipped it around too. But yeah, no, you get. I mean, especially Philly, I know the course pretty well, so I know when to anticipate my turns. But even the ones where I'm not, as familiar with the course, I've got to be, 2, 3, 4 steps ahead, planning ahead for my turns, stand to the outside on turns, so I'm not running into people because everybody goes to the inside. So I end up probably doing the longest marathon distance out of anybody there because I'm always way on the outside on the corners.
Mm.
Because I have to get permission before every single race. I mean, Philly, Kathleen, I've got the green light. Calgary here, my home race, I've got the green light already. But because I'm the only one without arms and legs doing marathons on longboard, I have to get, special permission and clearance and stuff like that. And so I have to have my head on a swivel. I'm watching for everybody. I'm probably the only person who's shoulder checks in a marathon. And if I'm completely 100% not at fault, if I have a wreck, they're going to start calling into question the safety of it. I mean, there's runners that clip feet all the time, and stumble over the bridges in Chicago, and you know whatever. But yeah, I just have to be extra careful and do my due diligence.
Sure. So to zoom out a little bit here, Chris, the big first question that I like to ask guests is, when you look back at your life up until this point, what's the hardest thing that you've ever had to handle that you did not get to choose for yourself? I would be shocked if your answer isn't what we've already been talking about, the fact that you were born with no arms and no legs. Is that your answer?
No, no, that's been the easy part, honestly. And it's everything we do in life. It boils down to the 6 inches of space between the ears. That's the difference maker. And it's my most challenging days or my worst days are the same stuff that plague you or anybody else. It's when we make it even worse for ourselves. And when I start overthinking the fact that I'm missing arms and legs and thinking it'd be so much easier if I
Mm.
had arms and legs, well, I have no frame of reference. Um, yeah, so I'm just making it up in my mind that it would be easier. But when I really, um, you know, like you said, zoom out and look at life, I guarantee I'm having more fun and more success without arms and legs than I would have had I been born with them.
So,
And go ahead.
well, I was going to say, we've got to talk about this. So this podcast is all about what you're about, which is choosing a positive perspective, overcoming adversity, finding strength within the struggle that we're given. And I've heard so many stories about people having things happen to them, going through a season where they feel like a victim and they work through that, and eventually they end up on the other side. You were born like this, and yet I'm still curious. Did you ever feel like a victim? For
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We all play the victim card. And we always think the grass is greener on the other side of the fence, and that whole comparison is a thief of joy. Doesn't matter what everybody else is doing or how much easier I think everybody else has it. My journey is my journey, and that's the one I need to worry about the most. I mean, obviously, you're cognizant of people around you, and you want to make the lives of people around you better. But if you're out there appeasing everybody else, and inside you're just an absolute miserable mess, well, you're not doing anybody any good. They're not getting the best version of you. They're not getting the best mother, father, son, daughter, uncle, aunt, friend, whatever, partner. husband, wife, whatever. So yeah, it's all I can do is concentrate on my journey, and what I've got going on is what I've got going on. And you have two options. You can, make your excuse and the reason why you don't do this, this, and this, or for in my case, I'm instead of worrying about what I don't have and the negative things, I'm concentrating on the things I do have, the things that are going well. And like I said, I've made it my mission to get out there and do as much as I possibly can. And I've had a lot of people say, you're doing more without arms and legs than most people do with arms and legs. And that's why I do these podcasts. That's why I do the marathons. That's why I, speak for the companies and the conferences that I do. Is I want people to get out there. And just make the most of life, grateful for what they have instead of worried about what they don't have. Get out there, all those things that scare the absolute shit out of you, do them. And, marathon is a great example of doing the really, really tough things, the really, really challenging things. Yes, it is a physical grind, 100%, but it's the mental grind that, you know, has you pulling up short because you think you're too sore, you're too tired, you don't have the gas left in the tank, or it's too cold, or it's too windy, or whatever. Or it's this right up here, prevents you from even taking that leap of faith to even consider doing a marathon and get training and actually go out there. So yeah, you get this out of the way, it's pretty impressive. And those marathons, whether it's your only marathon, that's something that you have in your back pocket. So when life throws curveballs at you, like, you know what, that that one Philly marathon that I did where I thought, my wheels were gummed up and they weren't spinning properly, even though I was pretty sure I was on a downhill. And I flipped my board upside down and I spun all four wheels. I'd just done Dublin, 3 weeks before. It was cold, it was windy, and I spun all my wheels. I'm like, nope, they're spinning fine. I'm like, my mind is playing tricks on me. My mind thinks I'm on a downhill, but I'm still on an uphill.
Mm.
But yeah, so those ones. I mean, Rockaway Beach Marathon is another one. It was freezing. It was raining. It was ice pellets hitting my face, and it was windy. It was the windiest, coldest, and wettest marathon I've done all in one. And those ones, yeah, okay. I pushed through that one, and there was hard. There was nobody there cheering, so it was just you. And all the other runners were like, "Yep, I'm miserable too." There wasn't this. All right, let's keep going, boys. It was just
There's there are a few things that I would love to break down a bit further. I mean, one thought that comes to mind right away is a quote from William James, who said, "Most people never run far enough on their first wind to find out that they've got a second." And just like,
that's a good one.
right? Yeah, it's great, right? Because even within a marathon, people who've run that distance, they know what we're talking about right now, because there are moments where you feel terrible, but you keep going, and then all of a sudden you feel good again. And
Yeah,
I think if you extrapolate and zoom out, we can all look back at our lives and look at the ups and the downs. We've had hard days, hard seasons, and then we've had great days and great seasons, and they alternate, right? And that idea of, this shall pass and this too shall pass, meaning the good times pass, the hard times pass, it all passes. We can look back and it can give us a sense of confidence, hope, encouragement that we just need to keep going. And when I hear your story, I know we're talking about your life condensed here into about an hour-long podcast. You're at this place in your life where you've had decades to process everything that we're talking about, the hardship, the adversity, the challenges. And you've come to a place where you have such a positive, optimistic outlook on life. But we just talked about how there was a time in your life, or maybe there are times in your life where you do feel a bit down or like a victim, etc. What were some of the turning points, or what were some of the things, if we could look back and pull them out, that changed your perspective from "I'm a victim" to "it is what it is and I'm going to make the best of it"?
yeah. Humor. I use a lot of humor, and the most pivotal day was day one, and I was barely even there for it. And when my grandma heard that I was born with some arms and legs, her reaction was to say that my dad never finished anything he started, and that was perfect. That set the tone. And there is not a presentation that I've ever done or a podcast that I've ever done where I haven't referenced that moment. Because it was, it wasn't going to be a pity party. It wasn't going to be this huge tragedy. It was all right. It is what it is. We're gonna make the most of it, and we're gonna have some good laughs. And life is a roller coaster, and every marathon is a roller coaster. Every marathon you go from, this is the greatest thing ever. I can do anything to, absolute regret and pain and suffering and like, you want to pack it in and you know, and it's funny, sometimes life places the right people at the right time. And I'm you know just struggling to find the energy to keep going, and thinking about packing it in, and somebody runs by and it's like, dude, you're an absolute inspiration. And you're like, okay, all right, well, now I have to keep going. But no, and I've had a lot of people come up to me afterwards, whether it's at the race itself or reach out to me on social media or see me a year or so later at an airport in Denver when they
Mm.
saw me in Philly or New York. But saying, hey, I was about ready to pack it in, and I saw you, roll by on your board with a big smile on your face, and that gave me the energy or the strength or whatever to just keep pushing and get across that finish line. It's like, oh, okay. And that's the neat part about it is, and I think we all have that ability to make a big difference in the people around us. Whether it's, doing a marathon or simply smiling and saying hello to somebody on the train or at the grocery store or at the airport or whatever. They could be going through the worst day of their life. And the fact that you smiled and said hello and have a nice day, could have pulled them out of a, potentially huge rut. So, those little moments in life that we have, I think we should make sure we don't, cheat ourselves out of those opportunities and cheat others out of those opportunities as well.
Man, that's so good. So if the physical attributes you have are not the hardest thing that you've ever had to handle, what would you say is the hardest thing that you've ever had to handle?
I mean, it's the moments when you're questioning your purpose in life, or you're stressing over pivoting in your career, or getting over a breakup or all those things.
Mm.
Those have been the most challenging. I mean, yeah, I've had some struggles in life, and you know tried to blame it on the fact that I'm missing arms and legs. And that's the thing about bad days or ruts or funks, is we want to blame it on someone or something that we have no control over. It's really easy to blame your parents. It's really easy to blame your situation. In my case, my disability, the fact that I was born missing arms and legs, blame the government, whatever. You do that, then you don't actually have to look in the mirror and say, okay, what is actually going on here? Let's be real here. Let's have a real discussion here. So, when you spend your whole life, pointing fingers, um, you're gonna just be spinning your tires in the mud. When Yeah, and I mean, in those moments where I blaming the fact that blaming it on the fact that I'm missing arms and legs. I don't have arms and legs. I'm never gonna have arms and legs. So why
Mm.
waste time and energy on that? Instead, focus on the things that I control. And again, to go back to marathons or marathon prep, those things that are going on in life, when you're getting out and exercising, going for that run, or in my case, longboard, or jumping on the stair machine at the gym and going up for half hour, an hour, the stairs at the hotel in the fire escape or whatever, you know, it doesn't make those things go away that are going on in life. But you got the body moving, you got blood flowing, you got oxygen pumping into the brain, and you're thinking through those things in a lot clearer frame of mind. Things don't seem quite as bleak as when you're laying in bed worrying about stuff that's going on in life, or on the couch watching, you know, the whatever 51st dates for the umpteenth time. Not that I've ever watched that movie too many times. I love Adam Sandler. But anyways, yeah, it's not the same. And a good buddy of mine, he said, the best runs you do are the ones that you don't want to do. Those days where you absolutely regret getting up and getting that 5K in or getting to the gym or whatever. that's the day where you really need to do it, and get over that hurdle, because that's one of those days that can spiral out of control on you.
Yeah, that's so well said. I just want to touch on this concept. You didn't use this word, but I hear it, right? This acceptance of, there are things in this life that I can't control, and I'm going to accept those things so that I can focus all of my energy, attention, and effort on the things that I can control. And I'll just throw this in here because it's something I've never mentioned on the podcast before. It's not a big thing, but with my eyes, like I had mentioned to you earlier, there's this progressive loss of sight. And over the past year or so, I've started having trouble, reading smaller things. If there's a show, right? Not the 51st Dates. I've seen it once, good movie. But we're watching something with like captions maybe, or a text message pops up on someone's phone on the screen. I can't read it anymore. And
Yeah.
instead of pausing it or squinting or trying to get closer and putting in that effort, I've come to a place where I've just accepted, hey, I'm going to surmise the context of, this whole episode. I'm going to assume that it is what I think it is. And I'll just take context clues, and it is what it is, right? I'm not going to stress over that. And I hope that people listening can think of something in their own lives that maybe they give a lot of energy to, a lot of effort to, a lot of worry toward, and they can't change it. If you're thinking of that thing right now, make a promise to yourself that you're going to strive in the direction of accepting that so that you could better control what you can. And so with that being said, our motto here at Project Endure is do hard things. And
Yeah.
I like to ask guests, what's the hardest thing that you've ever done on purpose? And you could give me a couple answers if there are multiple things that come to mind. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical task, although it can be.
Yeah. Um, it was uh, it was another one of my pivotal days in life. So the day I was born, what my grandma said. The fact that I was born wasn't the pivotal part. It's what my grandma said. Um, the other one is, well, I'm going to go to the most recent one. Well, one of the more recent ones, but when I accidentally discovered a longboard as a primary mode of transportation and mobility aid. I was down in Florida taking a course. Thought it'd be kind of cool to have a longboard along the beach, along the boardwalk. Got one from the Ron John Surf Shop in Fort Lauderdale, and I just thought it's just going to be like a hobby. And the very first day on the board, like, this is way easier. I can get farther, faster, way more efficiently on the board than I could on my artificial legs. And it was just get even factoring in, the different elements, wintertime, terrain, whatever. The longboard still comes out ahead of artificial legs, wheelchair, electric scooter, etc., etc. The other one is when I was still wearing artificial legs, I had straps on the back on the left leg, and I couldn't do them by myself, so I just needed a little bit of help. I was able to do them on my own otherwise, but it was just a couple split seconds of getting them on. Broke up with a girlfriend at the time. Well, she broke up with me, and we were living together, and she was the one that helped with the straps. And then, so that obviously there's the heartbreak part, but then the pragmatic. I got to figure out how to a do these legs on my own. Do I get somebody to come in and help out? Well, home care, they want to come in and have 2 hours worth of work, not 7 seconds. Do I get a new roommate? Whatever. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to focus a day, 2 days if I have to, and just grab things from around my apartment that I think might be able to help me do this. There's a couple shoelaces and a coat hanger or something. I don't remember now, but that whole day, put my legs on, take them off, put them on, take them off. First time takes an hour. Second time, 45 minutes. Third time, half an hour. Fourth time, about 40 minutes, goes completely wrong, have an absolute meltdown, scream at the world. Fifth time. And then, yeah, that whole day was just figuring it out. And I was able to figure it out, and it went from being, say 99% independent to 100% independent. And then the board just exacerbated that, and it was just way more independence. I opened up the world, and it was literally how far can I go, and figuratively how far can I go. So marathons, distance wise, and the travel and everything, and up happier, and didn't the back problems that I was having wearing artificial legs. Those have gone away. Now I'm just getting old, and I have those back problems, but Um, yeah, and so the very first marathon I did in 2016 was Calgary. My hip, my leg, my right side was sore for 2 weeks. The last marathon I did was Singapore. I did a half on Saturday and a full on the Sunday in the beginning of December. And, the day after doing the half and the full, I mean, I was a little stiff and sore, but not bad at all. Like we still toured around and did actually had a bunch of presentations that day at some schools. So yeah, but I mean, it's your body gets used to it, and that's the thing I love about these marathons is it's just a great excuse to stay in shape, great excuse to travel, and I've met some incredible people along the way too.
Yeah. Now, it sounds like problem solving, figuring it out has always been part of who you are, maybe in part because you've had to. Um, have there been any problems that you haven't been able to figure out?
I had to give the middle finger, but I mean, there's ways, but I mean, um, no, I was trying to think. I mean, just they're such simple little things that I can't think of them off the top of my head. I mean, like, when the shower head is tipped off to a
Mm,
ridiculous angle, you know, but and those are just that's height related things, but you just figure out how to do it. I mean, my go-to, there's always a longboard in or not longboard, an ironing board in the closet. And used to use the ironing board and leave it folded up, knock the shower head back to a normal angle, or pulling towels off the towel rack that's way up high. Just those kinds of things. But I guess the negative things, kind of like, and you're a sports guy, so I know you've watched Ted Lasso,
oh yeah.
and the Be a Goldfish. Um, I think that's great, and I mean the negative stuff, the things that have gone wrong, obviously deal with them. Don't be a goldfish in that you just completely ignore it and forget it. Deal with it, but put it in the past. So I try not to harp on the negative things. So I think if those negative things are too much in the back of your mind, the back of your memory, it's going to be weight. So if I can just deal with it and toss it in the trash,
Mm,
take the lessons I need from it, but otherwise, yeah. So
yeah.
I
Now,
can't I keep talking, trying to think of one of those things that you're looking for. I think I can't.
well,
Yeah.
I do have another question, which is I did look at your social media a bit, although I do like to come into these conversations a bit blind, no pun intended,
Yeah, there you
because
go.
because I like to explore as we go. But the one thing I did notice is that you're a farmer, and I
Yeah.
saw I saw a video of you driving a combine, and I thought to myself, the first time you ever did that, what did that look like to get up into a combine and drive a combine?
So those are one of those things where I don't remember. I was doing it so long. Like some of my earliest memories as a kid were riding around on the tractors and combines with my grandpa. So, I mean, I remember, my grandpa having to lift me up in there or whatever. And then just figuring out how to climb up there. And that's, again, it's one of those things where I don't really recall the first time that I climbed up the ladder on my own.
Mm.
Um, it's just one of those things. And that's, people will say to my brother, "Oh, it's so cool that your brother's driving tractors and combines." Like, well, we don't really think about it. Like, he always has. He just does. And my cousin or my niece, there's some people that were asking some questions or whatever, and Isabel goes, "But she was only 4." She's like, "Why do people always ask you how does he eat? How does he get dressed? How does he climb up into the combine?" And I said, "Well, they're curious. They've never seen somebody without arms and legs." I said, "So when the kids at kindergarten ask you, what do you tell them? You just do's." So that's Isabel's. You just do's it. But so you just don't really think about it. You just do it. And yeah, I mean, when you're people who aren't familiar with farming, even people who are familiar with farming, think it's absolutely incredible that I can drive combines and tractors and all that. I'm like, they're the easiest things in the world to drive. It's really not that impressive, but I mean, packing up and traveling, backpacking through Europe for 3 months on your own, or hammering out a marathon, those things are impressive. Not farming, but yeah, it is what it is. But I love it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, you just mentioned backpacking through Europe for 3 months on your own. I would love to hear a bit more about that. And also, when you set out for something like that, is there ever a pit in your stomach of, I'm a bit scared about this and I'm going to do it anyway?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And those that pit in my stomach, it it prevented me from doing things in the past. And I've been, pretty adventurous and, just kind of go headstrong into everything. But backpacking through Europe was always something that I would love to do. Just well, travel. I got a lot of good buddies who've done some very extensive traveling, and I'd done some traveling, just go to London for a week, or go to the Bahamas for 4 days, and then Orlando for 5 days with the family, that kind of stuff. But just going on my own, backpacking, no plan, no itinerary, just winging it. That's always something that I wanted to do. And then when I got going on the longboard, that just opened up that avenue, that opportunity. And so I remember on my plane ride over, flying from Calgary to London, um, everything went through my mind, every worst case scenario, going through your head. Like, what if this happens? What if day two I get robbed because somebody sees a guy with arms and legs as a perfect, easy target? And I always say, well, of course I am. I'm unarmed. Got no legs, so it's a nice clean getaway. But I've actually found when you travel around with a smile on your face and I say hello to or nod at pretty much every single person I pass by, and I think that gives off an energy of, okay, this is not a vulnerable, easy target. This is a happy-go-lucky, live life, love life kind of guy. He just said hello to me. Have a good day. Um, I can't rob him. I think that goes through my mind, and thinking back to Philly. What's the road that runs kind of on a 45 off of Broad Street? Is it Passyunk?
Passyunk, yes.
Passyunk. So I remember boarding down there. I was on my way to. I'm going to Pat's, where
Mhm.
Pat's and Geno's are at. I'm gonna have the best cheesesteak in town. And I started quizzing people. I'm like, Pats or Geno's, which one would you? And everybody was just so outgoing. And then there was a bunch of people like, oh no, you got to go to Gooey Louie's. And then they would talk about Gooey Louie's, and you could literally see them start to salivate. I'm like, okay, well, guess it's not Pats and Geno's or Geno's. It's Gooey Louie's. And yeah, I just love moments like that. People are awesome. Um, you know, it's Philly fan. That's one thing I love about Philly. They pride themselves on being assholes as sports fans, but as individuals,
Yeah.
they're great, and I love Philly for that reason. It is definitely the city of brotherly love. And every time I go there, I look forward to it. This past year, I took my nephews and my niece, and they loved it. And so yeah, Philly is. I mean, Calgary is my home marathon, but Philly is my other home marathon for sure.
Yeah, I think that's such a great description. Someone once said to me, in the Northeast, let's say your car breaks down on the side of the road. People will honk and beep at you. Maybe even you'll get a middle finger or two if you're not completely pulled over. But then that same person will pull off to the side of the road and help you change your tire. And
Yeah.
it's a little, we've got some rough around the edges here, but I think at our core we're good people, and I'm glad that you could see that. And also, one of my favorite phrases is be the reason someone smiles.
Yeah.
And just to go back to what you said earlier, we don't know behind the scenes what someone else is going through, what kind of day someone else is having. And a simple smile, a nice gesture, a good conversation can change the course of someone's day or even the course of someone's life. You never know. And I'm curious for you if that's always been how you've operated, the smile, nod, say hello to everyone, or if that's something you've developed over time.
I've always been a happy-go-lucky, live life, love life kind of person. My family's always joking around and laughing and stuff like that. So I've always been that way. I mean, there's been times, your teenage years, and you know, there was a little bit of bitterness inside me, but not nothing prevalent. But I think it was lingering, and I honestly, when I got going on that longboard, the my happiness level increased exponentially,
Mhm.
and which is pretty incredible because I was generally a pretty happy person to begin with. But the one very similar to the quote that you just used, Robin Williams, everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. And so, by simply saying hello, how you doing, have a great day to some random stranger, that could completely change the trajectory. And the other side of it, I mean, I remember I had some kids, you know, that I crossed paths with, and it was in LA, Santa Monica. And the one kid noticed me and was trying to get his buddy's attention. He's like, "Hey guys, look at that effing freak." I was kind of having a crappy day. And I was just starting to kind of turn the day around, and like, today's not the day I want to hear that. So I wheeled back around to be like, come on, guys, like, do better. And kind of have that conversation. Like, what if the person you said that to just had enough? They were done with the comments, the stares, the all that kind of stuff. What if that was the straw that breaks the camel's back? So when I went around to catch up to them, they took off running like these, guy without arms and legs going to be able to beat the crap out of these three 16, 17-year-old kids. So I was like, okay, well, that just shows their character. But yeah, you just never know. So yeah, be the reason why somebody smiles today. Um, is perfect. And if I can make a random stranger laugh or smile or something like that, or even, I've told my girlfriend I've got three jobs. Make you feel safe, make sure you know how much I love you, and I got to make you laugh heartily at least once every single day. So yeah.
I love that. So, all right, let me shift then to another question I ask everyone. And this is a simple one, but this is the Project Endure podcast. When you hear the word endure or endurance, what does that mean to you?
Um, I mean, for me to endure, uh, it's it's making sure that that at the end of the day, whatever the struggle or whatever the challenge was, you threw absolutely everything you have within you at that particular task. I tell people I'm way more afraid of regret than failure. Um, I don't want to look back at life saying, "Ah, what if I would have just tried to do that one marathon?" Or you know, when Philly, and I was not ready to pack it in, but I don't want to have a DNF under my belt. Like, what if I would have just pushed through the rest of the way, got over out of Fairmount Park and on that downhill, and then it's pretty much flat, heading all the way up to Manayunk and then back to the Rocky Stairs. What ifs? And I don't I want to my wheel will have to fall off my longboard before I pull up, and even then I'm going to try and figure out a way to position myself on the board so my weight is such that I can keep that front right missing wheel up off the ground and and get there. I had a shoe fall off. I had one of my shoes. That's why I need a better fit. I had a shoe kept coming off in Dubai Marathon. And I went probably 5 or 6 miles without a shoe. And there was a cyclist that grabbed the shoe and handed it back to me, and I put it back on. And yeah, that one I would have been sub 4 had I not had that. But
Crazy.
yeah, no, did I don't want to cheat myself out of a day. I don't want to cheat myself out of life. I don't want to cheat myself out of opportunity. And I always, when I do presentations, especially for the little kids, I'm like, all right, how many of you had an opportunity to do something really cool? And you chickened out, you backed out, and afterwards, you're like, what an idiot. Like, why didn't I just do it? And a bunch of kids put up their hand. Okay, all right. Now, how many of you had an opportunity or had a challenge or whatever ahead of you. You learn that, whether it's a subject in school or, getting ready for a game or just anything in life, and you were stressed out about it. It was giving you anxiety. You were up late at night. Made you sick to your stomach. You were worried about it so much, and then you went and did that one thing, and afterwards you're like, "Yeah, that really wasn't that bad after all." And a bunch of kids put up their hands. Like, that's pretty much everything in life. We make everything in life to be way harder, way more challenging, way scarier than it actually is. So you get this out of the way, it's amazing what we're able to do.
Um, I think, yeah, getting out of our own way is an underappreciated, underdeveloped skill in most of us. And I've got a couple quick things. One, if for all the Nike executives listening to this podcast, of course, I think the sponsorship would be a no-brainer. I mean, there's so much you've said today where I'm like, yeah, like a shoe sponsor, that's a done deal. We got to get you a shoe sponsor. So
Well, and people are always staring at me, always staring at me. So I'm literally a rolling billboard.
So
Yeah.
that's one. Two, so I'm a physical therapist by trade, and I am curious. This is going to be technical, so people listening, just bear with me. It'll be quick. Did you have a rotation plasty when you were younger, or were you born with the foot facing backward?
That it was born that way. So yeah, no. So the rotation or signs rotation is you see that most often in people who've lost a leg due to cancer.
Yep.
And if the foot hasn't been impacted,
Yeah.
affected by the cancer, they'll take that foot, spin it backwards. So the heel essentially is your uh
Knee
knee
joint.
kneecap. Yeah,
Yep.
knee joint. So yeah, no, that was just that was uh that was done before I came out.
Yeah. So then one quote I want to throw out here, just because you do have a great sense of humor. This is from Christopher Morley, who said, humor is perhaps a sense of intellectual perspective, an awareness that some things are really important, others are not, and that the two kinds are most oddly jumbled in everyday affairs.
I'm gonna have to get you to text me that one afterwards. That one's a good one.
I will.
Yeah, I mean, humor. I've always said that humor is a an underestimated tool, um, both for ourselves. Just laugh. There was a I can't remember. Oh shoot, there was a one guy. I can't think of his name, and he has a book called "Laughing at My Nightmare." Zach Anner's a guy with cerebral palsy, and he's got a book, "If at Birth You Don't Succeed." Um, and humor gets you through challenging days. And if I'm having a rough day or challenging day, or I mean, it's something very frustrating going on, if I try and slow things down, try and find the funny, it helps me get over a little bit quicker. And it seems like I have a little bit of control or some semblance of control over what's going on in life. And I've lived by that motto. If you can't laugh at life, what can you laugh at? For as long as I can remember. And I had one lady ask me, she goes, so there's a lot of comedians who, when the lights are on and the cameras rolling, are funny, 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 talented. But behind the scenes, it's a lot of darkness. And, is that this, are you, is the humor a mask? I said, no. I mean, it might get me through a challenging day, but the humor is just genuine, just a love of life, love to laugh and make people laugh. And, the humor on the for others, it's again much like making somebody smile or telling them to have a nice day. If you can get a good laugh, um, that could be the difference. And there's science behind it too. The chemicals that the body emits when you're laughing, it actually helps in memory retention. So I use humor in my presentation at the beginning, and then I deliver a message. They're going to remember that message after the humor. Similarly, if you got a buddy who's studying for finals, if you could sneak into his room, scare the shit out of him, and then be like, all right, now study, because everything you learn now, you're going to remember better because I got those chemicals flowing for you. But yeah, no, it's humor is huge. And obviously you got to, walk the line between, pun intended, between, humor and, upsetting or offending people. But the other side of it is I think people are so easily offended. It's almost like they want to be offended. I'll tell a story of something funny that happened to me, and people will get offended on my behalf. I'm like, no, I'm telling this story because I think it's funny what happened. You don't need to be offended for me. You can just laugh at the joke, laugh at the story.
Yeah, I mean, as it goes, laughter is the best medicine, and there's
Mhm.
something to that. One more thing I'll throw in there, just based off of what you said about regret and fearing regret rather than failure. One frame that I've taken on life, and I'm not perfect at it, but I want to get better at it, is we're all living this choose your own adventure book, right? Like we make hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of micro decisions every single day. And we are, in a way, choosing our own adventure. And what if the frame for making conscious choices was just minimizing future regret? Okay, I've got option A, option B. Which one will minimize my future regret? It's option A. Okay, I do option A. And then as you go through your life, your goal is to minimize future regret. I think that would be such a great way to live. And at the same time, easier said than done.
Why, yeah, all of these things that we've talked about today fall under the category if it's easier said than done. Because they're, you know, you said it yourself, you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I have my moments where I'm like, okay, you really need to check in with your own words. You're kind of being a bit of a hypocrite right now, and frankly, being a bit of a baby too. So let's suck it up and get it together, and do better. And that's honestly my alarm on my phone is do better, be better. Um, I want to make sure that today was a little bit better than yesterday. And the day before yesterday, I didn't work out and get some of the stuff done that I wanted to. I don't beat myself up over it, but I want to make sure that I step up and get that trajectory moving in a positive direction again instead of I didn't get out yesterday and now I'm just gonna whine about it today. But also back to the regret part of it. You know, I think you only need to give yourself one reason to do something, one solid reason that you should do something, and then all that negative stuff. What could go wrong. Um, that's sure, you got to make sure you're doing things safe. But I think some of that is it's muddy in the waters and it's your brain allowing you to try and talk yourself out of something that you really want to do. Um, and I came across this quote the other day. We always we always worry about the worst case scenario. What about what if this happened? Why don't we spend that energy worrying about the best case scenario? Um, give that some weight too. So yeah, but it's again, it's easier said than done. And if you try and block the noise and be a jump in the net will appear type of person, that makes it a lot easier to take that plunge and be like, hey, I'm signing up for the Philly Marathon. Or you know what, I'm signing up for Duolingo and I'm going to learn how to speak French or Italian or Spanish. Or I'm booking that plane ticket for that destination that I've dreamt of going to for 20 years, and I'm just going. And if you and when you do those things, the more often you do those types of things, the more confidence you gain. You have that ability to know, yes, things are gonna pop up. There are gonna be struggles. I am gonna trip and fall, but I'm gonna get myself up, dust myself off, and get back into the game. And that's taking those, and that's again marathons. It's confidence building. Whether you've done one or you've done 30, if you've done 30, there's one or two marathons where it was a absolute grind and struggle, but you got through it. That's that just gives you strength moving forward.
Yeah. So as we wrap things up here, Chris, I always ask the same last question to every guest. And to just frame this a bit, there are people listening to this podcast all over the world who are going through all different kinds of things. And if you were to speak right now to the person on the other end of this who's going through a hard time, a tough season, they just don't know where to go or what to do, they just feel stuck and down, what would you say to that person?
I always go back to just frame it to make sure you're more afraid of regret than failure. Um, we're gonna make mistakes. None of us are perfect. And I was like, you look at a toddler, and how many times did they, when they're trying to walk, how many times do they stand up and fall on their ass?
Mm.
Thousands of times. And do you ever see a little toddler? You know what? This whole walking thing, it's just not for me. I'm just going to crawl for the rest of my life. No, they keep pushing. They'll fall down, you know, you know, 999,000 times, and they'll get up 999,001 times.
Yeah.
And they don't they don't get discouraged really. It's when we get older, we get more jaded and grumpy and all that kind of stuff. That's when that stuff gets in the way. So, be more like your fearless toddler self and just do it. Don't overthink it. And most of that noise is stuff that you've created in your mind to talk yourself out of it. Give yourself that one excuse why. I mean, and do it for you. Don't worry about what everybody else thinks. I was going through a rut and I took off hitchhiking across Canada one year to try and get myself out of that funk. And it was amazing. And I did that for me. Because people are like, oh, you're crazy, it's dangerous, it's whatever. I'm like, well, I needed to do it for me. And it got me out of a funk in a big way. But you got to live life for you and quit trying to please everybody else. And yeah, again, be more afraid of regret than failure.
Yeah.
And what if our purpose in life is just to have fun and enjoy it? Quit loading so much pressure on ourselves. I mean, obviously, yes, there's things you have to take care of. We have day-to-day responsibilities that can't be shirked, but we can have a lot more fun doing it too. And there's time for the extracurricular stuff that we think we don't have time to do.
I think that's a great message to end off with. And, I really appreciate everything that you're about, the way that you show up, this conversation. I know it's going to impact people. And if someone's listening to this and thinking, I want to learn more about Chris, I want to follow along with Chris's journey, I want to ask him a question, where are the best places for people to do that?
Yeah. I mean, my website is ifican.ca. It's a Canadian website. And then all my socials are, well, Chris Koch, last name spelled Koch. You pop that in there. I'm usually the first one that pops up on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram. Yeah. If it's not a guy with arms and legs on a skateboard, that's somebody else. It's the wrong Chris Koch.
I will link that below so it's easy for people to find. And I just want to thank you again, Chris. This conversation made my day, and I know it's going to be really special for a lot of other people. So thank you.
No, thank you very much, Joe. I appreciate your patience. And yeah, I look forward to running India and Philly or New York or somewhere else.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Project Indoor podcast, go ahead and subscribe, leave a review on your platform of choice, and share this episode with a friend. It helps us get more conversations like this out to more people like you. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next time. And one more thing. If you're looking for a community of people all striving to be better together, check out the Project Indoor Hard Things Club. The link is in the description below. We'd love to have you.